Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into this incredible world of DNA and inheritance.
It's like cracking open a history book, but it's written in your very own cells.
Have you ever wondered how you ended up with your eye color?
Or why you're a whiz at math while your sibling struggles.
Well, we're unpacking the mysteries of how traits are passed down through generations.
And what makes each of us genetically unique.
And joining me for this incredible journey is our expert who can,
Help us make sense of it all.
well, it's not just a history book.
It's more like a constantly evolving masterpiece.
With each generation adding its own brushstrokes to the canvas of life.
Oh, I love that analogy.
But let's back up for a second.
We all know DNA is the blueprint of life, but how does it actually get passed down?
I mean, you don't come out looking like an exact replica of your parents.
Right.
You're not just a clone.
And that's where things get really fascinating.
Imagine for a moment that your chromosomes
Those tightly packed bundles of DNA.
are like these incredibly detailed instruction manuals.
Okay.
Now, when it's time to pass these manuals on to the next generation,
Your body uses a special process called meiosis.
it's a bit like taking those instruction manuals and
Making sure they're perfectly prepped for a new reader.
okay, so meiosis is like the ultimate editor for our genetic information.
Exactly. It ensures that each sperm or egg cell,
It's one copy of each instruction manual.
rather than the two copies our regular cells carry.
Think about it like a dance team where everyone needs a partner
That's your typical diploid cell.
with two sets of chromosomes.
But for meiosis, it's a solo performance haploid.
Just one set of chromosomes in each sex cell.
So it's like creating the perfect starter kit for a brand new human.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets even cooler.
Meiosis doesn't just make copies.
It shuffles the genetic deck, ensuring each sperm or egg cell is unique.
It's like taking those instruction manuals
Cutting them up, swapping sections between them.
and then randomly distributing those modified pages into two new one-of-a-kind manuals.
Wait, so it's not just about which manuals you get from your parents?
But the pages within those manuals are being mixed and matched too.
You got it. It's a two-part shuffle,
First, we have crossing over.
where sections of DNA are swapped between chromosomes.
Think of it like trading recipes with your neighbor.
You're introducing new variations,
Then there's independent assortment.
where the chromosomes themselves are divvied up randomly.
It's like deciding which cookbook goes on the left and which one goes on the right, completely random.
So it's no wonder siblings aren't identical.
With all that shuffling, you're bound to get a different combination of recipes from your parents.
You're catching on.
But there's another layer to this that often gets overlooked.
And that's mutations.
Mutations. Okay, now we're getting into X-Men territory.
Or maybe not.
Well, not quite.
We're talking about tiny changes in the DNA sequence itself.
Like a single typo in one of those recipe instructions.
And like typos, mutations aren't always bad,
Sometimes they're neutral, sometimes harmful.
but sometimes they actually make the recipe better.
Hold on. Better. So a genetic typo can actually be a good thing.
Absolutely. Think about it.
Mutations are the source of all genetic variation.
They're what allow species to adapt and evolve.
That slight variation in beak shape because of a mutation,
Allow Darwin's finches to exploit different food sources.
leading to the incredible diversity we see today.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
It's like evolution is constantly experimenting.
And mutations are its building blocks.
Precisely.
And it's important to remember that only mutations that occur in sperm or egg cells
Those gametes we talked about.
are passed down.
Oh, so that sunburn I got last summer,
Yeah.
that's not going to show up in my kids, thankfully.
No, thankfully not.
Those are mutations in your skin cells, not your gametes.
That's a relief.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to admit,
I'm starting to feel a bit like I did back in biology class.
like there's so much information.
It's hard to keep track of it all.
I hear you.
But that's the beauty of it.
We're peeling back layers of complexity.
And seeing how these tiny molecules orchestrate the symphony of life itself.
It's like we're exploring this vast library of genetic information.
And we've only just opened the first few books.
Exactly.
And speaking of books,
Remember those karyotypes we talked about?
the images of all the chromosomes all lined up, like
Right.
organizing the library's card catalog.
And how even small changes in chromosome number
Like having an extra copy of chromosome 21.
can have big effects.
It's amazing to think that these tiny
With
structures,
so much power.
yeah, it really highlights the delicate balance within our cells.
Even slight variations can lead to significant differences
And these variations are happening all the time.
with every new generation.
It's like each of us is a unique experiment in genetic inheritance.
Exactly. We're each
A product of this incredible shuffling and reshuffling of genetic information.
it's been happening for millennia.
So if we could rewind the clock,
And look back at our ancestors.
we'd see all these tiny changes in DNA.
These mutations gradually accumulating over time.
Precisely.
Some of those mutations might have been advantageous.
Helping our ancestors survive and reproduce in their environment.
Others might have been neutral.
Not really affecting their lives one way or another.
It makes you wonder what those early humans would think if they could see us now.
Shaped by countless generations of genetic change.
Yeah, it's a mind-boggling thought, isn't it?
And it really underscores the power of these tiny changes in our DNA.
To shape the grand narrative of life.
Absolutely. But
Let's zoom back in for a second.
we talked about mutations being the source of variation.
But not all mutations are created equal, right?
Some have bigger effects than others.
You're absolutely right.
Think of it this way.
A single typo in a sentence might not change the meaning too much.
But changing a key word can completely alter the message.
It's like accidentally adding an extra tablespoon of hot sauce to a recipe.
It might be a welcome surprise for some, but others might find it a bit too spicy.
Exactly.
It's all about context.
Some mutations might happen in sections of DNA that aren't as critical.
While others might affect genes that play a crucial role in development or bodily functions.
So where in the DNA sequence a mutation occurs really matters.
Absolutely.
It's like real estate.
Location, location, location.
A mutation in a gene that's essential for early development
Is likely to have a much bigger impact.
than a mutation in a gene that's less critical,
It makes me think about those butterfly effect scenarios.
where a tiny change in one place can have these huge ripple effects elsewhere.
And that's what's so fascinating about genetics.
It's a complex web of interactions.
And we're only just beginning to unravel all the threads.
And the more we learn,
The more we realize how much more there is to discover.
but one thing's for sure, this journey into our DNA,
Is revealing just how interconnected life truly is.
we're all part of this incredible chain of inheritance.
Shaped by the forces of variation and selection.
And to think that it all boils down to these tiny molecules,
It's enough to make your head spin.
it really is.
But in a good way, of course. I don't know about you.
But I'm feeling a renewed sense of awe and wonder about the world.
Me too. It's a good reminder.
That even in the smallest of things,
There is extraordinary complexity and beauty to be found.
you know, it's funny,
We often think of our DNA as this fixed blueprint.
but after this deep dive,
I'm starting to see it more like a dynamic story.
constantly being written and rewritten through generations,
That's a great way to put it.
it's a story with billions of characters. The genes
Interacting in countless ways.
shaped by chance.
And the ever-changing environment.
And just like any good story, there are twists and turns,
Unexpected heroes.
and even the occasional plot hole.
Precisely.
And those plot holes, those mutations,
Or what keep things interesting.
they introduce variation
Which is essential for a species to survive.
and adapt. So
Wait.
in a way,
Mutations are like the plot twists that keep the story of life going.
absolutely.
Think about it. If there were no mutations,
If DNA replication was always perfect,
life on Earth would be incredibly boring,
you'd all be pretty much the same.
with no room for adaptation or change,
We'd be stuck with the same tired storyline.
generation after generation.
But because of mutation,
Because of those tiny errors in our genetic code.
life has been able to diversify
And thrive.
for billions of years.
Exactly.
And that's something to marvel at, don't you think?
Those tiny mistakes are actually the engine of evolution.
Driving the incredible diversity of life we see around us.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
That something as seemingly insignificant
As a single nucleotide change in our DNA.
can have such profound consequences.
It really is.
And it makes you realize
That even though we've learned so much about genetics,
We're still just scratching the surface.
There's so much more to discover.
So many mysteries yet to unravel.
And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Every new discovery
Opens up a whole new world of possibility.
I got it.
But as we continue to unlock the secrets of our DNA,
We also have a responsibility.
to think carefully about the implications of this knowledge.
Right, like with genetic testing and gene editing technologies.
Exactly.
These advancements have the potential to revolutionize healthcare.
But they also raise complex ethical questions.
That we,
To grapple with.
it's a lot to consider,
It is.
but ultimately,
Knowledge is power.
and the more we understand about our genes,
The better equipped we'll be to make informed decisions.
about our health, our future,
And the future of our planet.
couldn't agree more.
We're all stakeholders in this incredible story of life.
And it's up to us to write the next chapter.
With wisdom and compassion.
Beautifully said.
And on that note,
We've reached the end of our deep dive.
into the world of DNA and inheritance.
I don't know about you, but
I'm feeling a renewed sense of wonder.
about the intricate workings of life.
From the tiniest molecules to the vast tapestry of evolution.
It's been quite a journey.
It certainly has. And I think we've all learned that even in the most fundamental aspects of our being.
There's endless complexity.
And beauty to explore.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners,
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure.
into the very essence of who we are.
And remember,
The story of your DNA is still being written.
what new twists and turns will you add to the narrative?
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep into the wonders of the world around you.